Hey everyone, I'm on vacation right now, and I thought it'd be really fun to film a video while I'm trying to get a quick workout in of what are my 5 favorite exercises that'll work your whole body and just give you a solid workout. So here we're gonna go through them all. So when I was on vacation picking my 5 best exercises to train, I was looking at a criteria of 3.5-ish things. The first thing being, does it train multiple muscle groups at once? And do those muscles have a high ceiling? Is there a lot of potential for progressive overload? The second thing was, I want some core and stability work as well. I don't want a static exercise where I'm supported in a machine. I want to be challenging my core and stability while I'm doing the exercises. And the third thing is there some aspect of functional ability where I'm going to translate that to my sports or my activities or my daily living? So with those 3 criteria of training multiple muscle groups with progressive overload potential, having some core stability training in there, and some functional loading or some functional movement patterns, let's see what 5 exercises I chose. The first exercise I chose is the barbell reverse lunge. To your surprise, people are probably thinking it's going to be a barbell squat, but I actually chose this exercise because it definitely trains multiple muscle groups because you get the quadriceps and the glutes working as your primary muscle movers. The second thing is what I really like about this exercise is you get the core and stability. By being on one leg pressing the weight, you actually train some of your lateral hip muscles to keep you solid. This has good, part 3, functional translations to stuff like hiking and running and doing things where you're on one foot at a time. We hardly live our lives on 2 feet at a time. We're always on one transitioning to the other. So this barbell reverse lunge exercise is a great replicator of that. It also has high ability to have progressive overload. You got a barbell on your shoulders, you can load up the weight. So this is one of my favorite exercises for a big bang for your buck. You also get good isometric or good antagonist muscles working, such as your hamstrings, all of the intrinsic muscles of your foot, if you're doing this in a barefoot like I am, and your calves to kind of keep everything solid while your big primary movers are working. So doing this exercise barefoot or in your sock foot at the gym actually is a great way to get even more benefit from it. The key being pushing up to the front leg, not your back leg. There is a con to this exercise, and I think the big thing is as you get heavier, it is easier to cheat and use 2 legs, like you're pushing off the back leg a bit more. But all in all, if you keep the weight within your limits, really working on that front leg, doing the work on that eccentric control and pushing up strong, fantastic exercise. Probably to nobody's surprise, the next exercise I chose was the Romanian deadlift. With a barbell, I don't think there's any exercise for your hamstrings and posterior chain that is superior. It has multiple muscles, like I said. It also has a lot of good secondary antagonist muscles that are working, like your erector spinae. If you're doing this exercise shock-footed, keeping your calves and intrinsic muscles of your foot, keeping you stable. Obviously, it works your core and stability, making sure your spine isn't collapsing under the load, and it absolutely has great translation to function as you're learning to pick up something heavy. I chose it over the true deadlift because I wanted that emphasis on the hamstring eccentric component. So in my life, it's really important to be able to sprint and play sports. So I want that eccentric loading of the hamstring. If I wasn't so worried about like running aspects of things, a deadlift would be another option I might have picked more. But because I want that lengthening of the hamstring under load, I really wanted the RDL stiff leg one specifically for that reason. Is there a con to the Romanian deadlift? I don't actually think there's a con to this exercise, but you can let me know in the comments. Now we'll talk about this later, but I only picked 2 lower body exercises. So this is a bit of a challenge when I was picking my 5. But we're gonna go right into the barbell bench press, which is one of my favorite exercises, one of my exercises I love to hate. I have a love-hate relationship with it. However, it does train the chest in one of the best ways in a strict pressing movement. You obviously get your triceps involved and your front delts. So you are working a lot of those anterior front chest and shoulder muscles. Great exercise for it. Obviously has high progressive overload ability with the barbell. It does train your core by keeping you engaged and the stabilities of your shoulders, making sure the bar is level. The functional aspect, it can have some functional aspect because you do train being able to like push, but it's not as relevant to many like max effort things that we do in our daily life. If you're someone that did some martial arts or someone that did some throwing exercise like sports and those sorts of things, it would be more relevant. But if you're someone who's more involved with hiking and walking, doing those kinds of like mountain biking, doing those kinds of sports, a max bench press isn't necessarily going to be like the most important thing in the world, but it still does train the muscles well. So I threw it on there because for my life with throwing sports and those sorts of things, it's important to me. A con to this exercise, probably ego lifting. Ego lifting would be the biggest con. Suffer for it myself, hurting my shoulder. So that'd be my big con. Without a doubt, my favorite exercise is the barbell row. I think this is just an absolute beauty of an exercise to train absolute power of like being able to bend over and then lift something. So it already creates the functional aspect because we all have to kind of bend down at some point, bend forward and lift something up that could be potentially pretty heavy. It definitely has multiple muscle groups as you're working all your lats, your rhomboids, all those interscapular muscles, your posterior delts, you're working your biceps. So everything is quite engaged. You have high progressive overload ability, so it definitely ticks that off as you can load up the barbell. And it does train your core and stability as you're bent forward in that hinged position, which is so important. I would say one of the cons for this exercise is I did choose the barbell one versus the dumbbell. So, you are not going to have that right to left unilateral training. Same with the bench press, you're not going to have that right to left unilateral training as you would with like the barbell reverse lunge, for example. But overall, definitely one of my favorite exercises of all time. The last exercise slot, once I came down to it, was difficult. So I had my barbell reverse lunge, which was my push for my legs, my RDL, which is my pull for my legs. I had my bench press, which was my push, and then I had my row, which was my pull. So, opposites going on there. And then I needed my overhead movements. And then I was like, oh shit, I'm only picking 5. But realistically, I want a push and a pull. So do I pick an overhead press or do I go with a lat pull down or like a pull up? Like which is kind of what my plan is here. I ended up going with number 5 being the overhead dumbbell press. This has, I'm going to say the con with this one right off the gates is we're going to have a lot of front delts with the bench press already. So that was one of the things that I was tossed up with. However, it is a great multi-joint exercise. You do get your shoulders and triceps involved, and you're going to get good engagement of your rotator cuff for that core and stability training. Because you're with the dumbbells and you're holding them unilaterally, your rotator cuff is really engaged to keep your shoulder in the socket. So it is working well there. So it definitely ticks that. It has a lot of functional aspects. We all need to be able to lift our arms up overhead and push overhead and carry things. So being strong in that motion is absolutely critical. So it is a great exercise on its own for ticking those 3 criteria. In the scheme of our top 5, the con being we are now going to be overloading the front delts more than our back, which is not great. But we can talk about some adjustments to those 5 exercises, or maybe just adding a 6th that would be helpful. So immediately, if I were to add a 6th exercise, it would obviously be a wide grip lat pull down. This is a great multi-joint exercise, which works your interscapular muscles, your lats, and it can help with the pulling motion in that vertical direction, so opposite to your pressing. I like the lat pull down more than a pull up, for example, because it has high scalability because you can add weights, but it also has like a lower starting point, which can be easier to gradually progress. So you can get the repetitions and the sets, so you can get full volume that's required without compromising form or sacrificing it with a pull-up. Of course, pull-ups being a great progression. So it definitely has the multi-joint, multi-muscles with progressive overload. It definitely has the functional aspect. It is a little light on the core and stability. That would be the pull-up version. So still great for overall rounding it out. Now, all of my exercises I've chosen so far, It's very upper body dominant. There's 4 to 2. There are so many leg exercises that I would want to do. I would really want to add one more into the mix, making it a seventh, which would be a lateral lunge. At least with the lateral lunge, you're getting that side motion. So this is very functional for any kind of sports and activities and cross training to get that lateral pivoting movement in. It has great scalability, multi-joint exercise for the glutes and the quadriceps, and it is very functional because of that, and it does train your core and stability as well as you're kind of lunging to the side. Overall though, there definitely can be room for more leg volume, but we only had to pick 5, so it's one of those alternatives. If I were to design a program for somebody and it had to be big bang for your buck movements to just really maximize overall strength of the lower body and upper body, I would do a mix of all 7 of those exercises, doing 3 to 4, 2 to 3 times per week. So I'd kind of pair a lower body with a couple upper bodies. So we'll do like a reverse lunge, and we'll do like a press, like a chest press that day, and a lat pull down. And then we'll do like a Romanian deadlift, a barbell row, and an overhead press. And then you can do a lat pull down with the side lunge and with your bench press. That way you can kind of like work things in regularly, so you're hitting multiple muscle groups and getting the volume there. There are so many other ways to train, but at least this could be an option to kind of fit, jam pack a big bang for your buck exercises. There's a lot of things missed here, a lot of isolating of core and rotational movements, but if you can only pick 5 and have a few variations, this is what it would be. Some other easy ways to make variations to the exercises: instead of doing barbells, doing dumbbells, so you get more of the unilateral work. That could be another great way too, but those would be my top 5.